If Black Tuesday never happened, 3,000 people would blessedly return to families that day, and I wouldn't be talking about this dark topic as the downtown skyline would look exactly as it had since '72. What is up everybody? Today we'll be looking at how 9/11 changed America and would the world be a different place if the worst terrorist attack never even happened. With rising concerns about safety, vigilance and privacy, nowadays we have to take off our shoes to go through airport security. Stated change and rise in security is one of few great things that actually happened. Apparently before 9/11, terrorists would easily smuggle box cutters and knives through security. It's one positive change as opposed to longest war in American history. If 9/11 ever happened, US wouldn't invade Afghanistan and Iraq. Still Taliban might have held to power, but who knows for how long. About 7,000 United States soldiers and hundreds of thousands Iraq and Afghan civilians would be alive today, as America would have no reason to attack Middle Eastern countries and occupy it. By the way, check out this great film called American Sniper, which follows the story of Chris Kyle, who served in Iraq War. Alright, so if terrorist attacks never happened, George W. Bush ratings still could have declined as the economy suffered, but they wouldn't be throwing shoes at him. I mean, even though he avoided being hit by either of the shoes, honestly, this man's got some great reflexes. I wonder if Donald Trump would avoid it. Anyway, smaller terrorist attacks still would have happened because note that Osama bin Laden's campaign against the US had been underway for nearly a decade before the attacks. This can remind us of earlier terrorist attack on the World Trade Center when intended was to send North Tower crashing into the south by detonating truck bomb below the complex. Plan failed, but only 8 years later, even with the rise in security, the unthinkable happened. Second major change would be lower public opposition to immigration. All 19 9/11 hijackers arrived in the United States with false passports. The fact that those responsible for 9/11 had entered the United States without detection caused the American public to distrust whether the government was adequately vetting potential visitors and immigrants to the country. As a result, effects of 9/11 were especially pronounced for immigrants. Instead of viewing immigration through a lens of economics and foreign policy, the United States came to view it mostly through a lens of security and risk. Still, with the start of war and terror, massive increase in deportations has been overseen, which have nearly doubled since September 11. In 2016, nearly 85,000 refugees were accepted into the US from around the world, until in 2021, Trump announces that he would accept only about 15,000 refugees. If US never invaded Mid-Eastern countries, people probably wouldn't have to leave their home in a search for better life. This, however, might have increased immigration even more, as in our alternative timeline, terrorist attack never happened, so immigrants would pose minimal risk to America. Interesting is how about 50 years ago, 84% of immigrants came from North and Western Europe, but today that number has dropped to only 13%. Approximately half of immigrants living in the US today are from Mexico. So terrorist attack left a scar on each person, varying from families who lost their loved ones to young civilians that started putting on an army uniform. World witnessed the cause, but to some people the real truth remains unknown because history is written by the victors. You know, huge events like this always will result in disinformation and many conspiracy theories. For example, imagine yourself surrounded by few million people. One guy wearing a mask stabs someone and gets away. We all might know what happened, approximately who did it, even though he can change his mask anytime he wants, but who's the man behind the mask? It was supposed to be Osama bin Laden, but doesn't even matter 20 years later.